Hello, Austin County. Today we are here with Walter Morrow, EMS Chief, and Rhonda Ritchey, Assistant Chief. Thank you for being here with us.
It's good to be here.
Well, we hope we're going to learn a lot of interesting things. But before we begin, I want to remind everyone to like and share our videos and subscribe to our Hello Austin County YouTube channel. That helps us know exactly what you want to see. All right, so let's jump right into it, guys. All right, and I don't care who goes first. What inspired you to become an EMS professional, and how long have you been on the job?
You want to take it?
I guess I'll start. I grew up in a family of first responders. So my father was a firefighter. My uncle was a firefighter. My brother was a firefighter paramedic. My grandmother during World War II was in the fire brigade in London. It was just that kind of stuff. So
wait, London as in London, England?
Yes.
Wow.
So just
long history.
Long history of that. And as a kid, I just grew up around fire trucks and the fire station and stuff. And for me, growing up watching the old TV show Emergency and Johnny and Roy saving the day, that was an all-time goal until I made it to just before high school and thought that the military was going to be a route that I wanted to do, and started heading down that way, and then realized a little later that, I think I like the fire side of things. I just started as a volunteer firefighter in the small town I lived in and kind of rekindled that, love for it. And then instead of going in the EMS route from there, I actually went and became a registered nurse. I'll say, unfortunately, I graduated back in 1995 and then moved to Houston. So
where did you start out? You said small town. What small town did you start out in?
Up in Canada. So I'm a Canadian.
Okay.
So I'm born and raised.
Okay.
So I moved here in 96.
Okay.
So
you're a real Canadian, eh? I mean,
well, not anymore. I'm more of a Texan now. I guess I'd say I've been here longer.
All right. So everybody. Okay. So you did do fire. I
started as a firefighter, yes.
Okay.
And then went to nursing school, and our fire department had a very active first responder program that our closest ambulance was 20 plus minutes away.
Oh, yeah.
On any day. And so would go to EMS calls all the time and just kind of fell in love with that again and liked the medical side of things. So ended up going to nursing school and then moved to Texas for a career opportunity that came up. And I worked in the intensive care units in downtown for a while. And then I started a flight career in 2000 until shortly after starting at Austin County.
So you have done it all.
A little bit, yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What about you? Do you have such an exciting?
Oh, I don't know that mine's that exciting. Okay. I can tell you that I'm glad you didn't pick the military. They do have a height limit. But I was in the military, in the Air Force. And when I got out of the Air Force, I decided to try to do the civilian wife thing. And I was kind of bored being at home all day long. I went to town. And I was living in Clarksville, Tennessee at the time. I'm from Texas, born and raised. But I was in Clarksville and an ambulance blew past me and I see a bunch of people jumping up and down in that ambulance. And for the first time since after getting out of active duty, I had that, I like to call the Mufasa feeling. And I want to do that,
Right.
So I started pursuing my EMS career there, beginning with my EMT basic at Murray State University. And then, shortly not too long after that, I started moving back to Texas and kind of worked my way down the east side of Texas with the hopes of landing in Padre Island. But once I hit my hometown, I picked up from there, and then I started advancing in my career and my patch levels and took off and went to Montgomery County and served there. And while I was there, I too also went to fire school, became a firefighter. I realized we make more money, or at the time back then, we made more money as a EMT or EMS side of things than in firefighting. So I committed my time back to full EMS. I briefly did a stint with PHI, and that's where I met this wonderful man here. He was my preceptor on the helicopter and taught me everything he knows. It took a whopping 2 weeks. And
it wasn't much.
No, I'm joking. We like to play. But other than that, I recently retired from Montgomery County, and I was made aware that he was the EMS director or the chief here. And I couldn't have been more excited to venture this direction and join Austin County EMS solely because of his leadership.
Wow, well, glad to have you. Okay, now you didn't tell me how many years have you done just EMS? I mean, I don't know everything else.
I graduated fire school in '92.
Okay.
And in Texas, I didn't do any EMS related stuff until 2001.
Okay.
So
all right.
24 years or
what was
I started in 1999.
Okay. All right. So you guys know what you're doing. It's
been around a little bit.
around a little bit. All right. So here's the big question. What do you guys do all day? I mean, everybody thinks y'all sit around and watch TV with your feet up until the, alarm goes off. Is that true?
No, my boss would kill me. No, actually, there's so many layers to that. I'm not sure exactly we're delving into. As far as me in the office area, Chief has had a vision since I've come on board about how to bring Austin County EMS into modern day EMS science and bring that technology, bring the education pieces, bring the customer service kind of side of things to this. And it's a tall order if you put it all together in one package. So we've had to break it down in layers and learn how to restructure to some degree. Basically, I think Chief kind of nailed it on the head when he said, we're going to rebrand Austin County EMS. And I think that was probably the smartest line I think I've ever heard, because that's exactly what it has taken to do, or what it's taken to get it done anyway. And so he runs a lot. I'll let you give him his side of the story, but he's got such a handful. There was just no way humanly possible to be able to bring that kind of vision to life as a one-man band. So he brought me on, and although it helped a lot, at least I think it did.
Sometimes.
There's two sides to the operations, besides running the overall picture in my mind. There is operational, and then there's the clinical side, because one does not survive without the other, right. At least not successfully. And so we brought on a new clinical manager, Captain Ward, and since then it has I feel like the engines of the jet has fired up, and we're starting to roll down that runway pretty quickly now. And a lot of training, a lot of education, a lot of research, a lot of blessing that the county has been so gracious to give us the leeway to do so, to bring the standards of care up to the expectations I would want for my family, as I'm sure they would be expecting for their family. And that's kind of where we're leading off into the future.
And the goal is to be a leader in rural EMS nationwide.
Absolutely. That is our actual goal.
So, but on a day-to-day side of things, I just move paper from this side of my desk to the other side of my desk. Go attend a lot of meetings.
Okay, so actually,
but we'll go back to the crew level. What they do is,
I think that's where the real question is. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop.
No.
The crew, I have to tell you, they're signed on for what they call in our world a 4896. They show up to work at 7 a.m. for the first start of their 48 hours on duty. They have a truck checkoff they have to do. They got station duties they have to do. They've got to get the game plan on if there's any special events going on, and be very aware of the radio traffic, and to be able to meet the needs of closing the gap between a 911 call and answering that call physically. So we have 4 dedicated on-duty trucks at any given time if we have no calls on. And when one call goes, the gap between the 911 call and the answering the call increases no matter where you're at, because now we're down to 3 trucks covering all of Austin County, okay? And we're very rural, especially as you get up there toward industry, or we get out to New Ulm, even down in Wallace sometimes. Our call volume since I've been here has been on a steady incline, especially since they've completed the construction of I-10 and the new neighborhood homes coming in, businesses coming in. We've got a lot going on behind the scenes that sometimes I have to kind of check back in with Chief to find out if there's anything new that I'm not aware of. And it turns out if you sleep for any more than 1 to 2 weeks, something new is afoot. And so I have to check back in and then remind my crews that there's a bigger mission out there, that we're not playing our day-to-day EMS operations, we're playing for the next 3 to 5 years. So let's get our mind and groove for the next 3 to 5 years, so we're not behind when we get there.
Okay, I was just going to jump in. You said 48.96.
Yes.
Okay, so they're on for 48 hours straight. Like they live there, stay there,
They do.
there.
They do.
Okay, and then they're off
for 96 hours.
For 96. Okay.
So essentially, the majority of the weeks they work 2 days a week, but it's nonstop from the start. And the stations are equipped with. It's like living in a house.
Right.
Everybody has their own bedroom in our new stations. There's bathroom, showers, full kitchen, things like that. Like a stereotypical firehouse that everybody would expect to see. Okay. During their 48-hour period, there's just, things that have to get conquered. So, the first thing they come in and they get an off-going report from the shift that was on before them. Hey, this is what's going on. Hey, we noticed this little issue with this. I'm not sure if it's happened once. We don't know if it was a one-time fluke, whatever. They just pass that information from shift to shift. And then, they start their truck check, and it's simply checking the truck from bumper to bumper, making sure the engine's okay, checking the oil, checking the fluid levels, making sure didn't throw a hose isn't broken somewhere under the engine and stuff like that, all the way to making sure that it has, if this one spot says it's supposed to have 10 Band-Aids, there's 10 Band-Aids there.
Right.
Right down to that extreme. And so it takes some time to actually check a truck from bumper to bumper, and sometimes they only get halfway through. But they're legally responsible for everything on that truck for that period of time.
Now, I was gonna say, do y'all find that certain days, certain times, certain hours are more or less, or is it just a dice shoot?
It is.
Don't know.
Really a dice shoot. At nighttime after 10 p.m. it slows down, quite a bit.
It's like we're rural, and I think everything rolls up there.
Sometimes you feel like the sidewalks are rolled up at 10 o'clock. Yeah. Or at 6 o'clock sometimes. And then is, I hate to use the word quiet, but quiet. Right. And it's like that for until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then it starts up again. But typically our busiest time of days really is from that 10 o'clock in the morning until 8 to 10 at night.
Okay.
And it really doesn't make a difference if it's Monday or Sunday or Friday night. It's pretty much the same. We see a little bit more of a spike at the nighttime calls on Fridays and Saturdays.
I was going to say, and so what types of emergencies do you most commonly, I realize you do everything, but most commonly, what do you get? Ow, I hurt myself, or,
Lots of falls.
I was going to say gravity seems to be an issue. Yeah.
So a lot of our population is, a good rural community. We have, just look at the demographics. Everybody stays at home. Our grandparents live at home by themselves, and unfortunately slip, trips, and falls happen frequently, or medical emergencies causing them to fall.
Okay.
Things like that happen. That's probably, I would say, 40 to 60% of our total call volume is falls.
Okay. That's what
countywide, and it's not one specific area versus another.
All right. Well, so now, okay, so that's most of it. So you figure, it's quote unquote low key. That's not your big stuff. But like when you do have a very big accident, like, the traumatic thing, like what happened with the little girl who was lost, what part do y'all play? Are y'all first on the scene? How, and like, how do you guys say, okay, we're going to go and like, we have this terrible wreck or this lost child, or, is it all business and then worry later, or are you already thinking?
If you don't, I'm gonna take that ball.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, as far as who gets there first, well, that's a whole nother subject. It starts with the 911 call.
Okay.
And the dispatcher does their very best to process a lot of information and get it out amongst multiple organizations, such as your law enforcement, EMS, maybe even fire, or any other organization out there that is needed to be able to make this call a success. Okay.
It really is a team effort.
It is.
On all sides.
So, and it also depends on where we're located. So if I happen to be sitting next door to the 911 call, there's a good chance I might get there first.
Right.
But we're on either in our assigned stations, or sometimes we're outposting because we have some trucks out of the county. So we're already on the road, and we may not be closer to the call sometimes. Maybe law enforcement's there closer, or the fire department that's in that district is there closer. I don't know that there's a direct answer to who gets there first. It's just whoever's the closest and heeds the call. As far as how do we work together, we actually in the process right now, our local law enforcement sheriff's department currently does all of our 911 dispatching. And sometimes they get kind of tied up. I know that they're a very busy organization, and some of their services spans over the county through other counties tending to law enforcement issues. And so sometimes that one or two dispatchers may not be able to handle 3 or 4 more organizations responding and all the radio traffic that comes within each of those organizations. So I think right now the fire department and EMS are looking to move communications to a communications center out of, I think, Sugar Land, is that right? Or Fort Bend area? Community. And where we'll have licensed emergency medical dispatchers and emergency fire dispatchers answering those calls, not the law enforcement. All the 911 regarding law enforcement stays here in this county so they can handle that most appropriately. And our current dispatch will have the ability to listen in on all of those calls as well that's going out to EMS and fire. So we'll be able to ask, obviously, those more annoying questions when you call 911 on that side of things. But those questions that you ask on those 911 calls are incredibly important because if you were to call 911 anywhere here or in our future dispatch locations there for that, they're already sending an ambulance or a fire truck or even police before they're done asking the questions. It's a very simple tone-out kind of situation. But while the ambulance or the fire truck's on the way to answer that 911 call, they're asking very important information that helps gear, say, our paramedics in the truck to start thinking about how to formulate a plan to deliver the kind of care that this patient is in need of in a very short amount of time and get it right. So I know they seem like annoying questions, but they're so important because now while we're driving to you and you're answering those questions, they're simultaneously feeding that information to us through a computer screen in our truck. So now I know if you can't breathe because a bee stung you and all those questions you feel like it's just a waste of your time, just send me an ambulance. I am now already gearing up what kind of medications I need, and I can jump out of the truck ready to run. Instead of now asking you the same questions over the phone when I get there, I'm ready to jump.
Well, and then also on top of it, we're getting more and more information about a car accident. What kind of vehicles are involved? Do we need hazardous materials to come? Is an 18-wheeler filled with some type of ethyl death that we don't know what's on there, right?
Or how many patients do we need?
Do we need more ambulances? Yeah. Do we need helicopters? And
I was going to say, I didn't even think about
before we even make a location. And then it's constantly going through our minds when we get there.
Such a critical piece of the puzzle there.
Yeah, because people always think, well, you're wasting my time asking all these questions. Why are you asking all these questions? Just come.
Yeah.
But you don't think about, if you, need an EpiPen because you've been stung by a bee, well, that's totally different than, if you can't breathe because you have a constricted airway for another reason.
Right.
I guess that's kind of dumb. I didn't even think about that.
It gives our crew a little bit more time to mentally think about, okay, what do I need to do? What's my priorities when I get there?
Right.
Versus, hey, look, I already got an idea that there's 3 patients in this car accident.
All right.
Okay, well, there's 3 people. All right, well, I need these resources, or I might be able to handle it myself, whatever it may be, depending on what's going on. But it's like, oh yeah, but one's still in trap. Okay, well, I make sure the fire department's responding.
All right.
Because we need to have the JAWS tools to be able to cut the person out of the car potentially, or stabilize things, or make it safe.
Exactly.
Kid.
Okay.
A child with special needs.
Okay.
Is there certain things that we need to be aware of before we get there? Because it changes our
it does.
Our thought patterns on before we get there, and the plans in the future. Like, hey, now we're already on the way. I've already checked the status. We can look at the hospitals and see what status of what ER is open, and if they're super full or not. So on the way, like, oh, maybe we're going to need to go to a children's hospital of some sort. Okay, well, I've got 2 options. Which one's more geared for this problem or not?
Okay.
Or can they go to just the local hospital?
Yeah.
So those type of things are all going through our minds.
I would say it's funny how you don't even think about these things, and I guess too, it's that old thing. I know that I don't do well under pressure. If anything's wrong with my family, I'm one of those. I'm like, oh my God, just get here and fix it,
Yes.
And so you just can't,
And sometimes we get the call that I have foot pain.
Right.
You're like, okay, well, foot pain, all right, whatever. And you get there, it's because they almost cut the leg off with a chainsaw. Like that's the type of,
Yeah,
you don't get that information
for me too. Just thinking about it, actually.
That's a big difference. I have foot pain and I'm about to lose my...
But those details actually do happen a lot.
Frequently. So
he's not
that changes exactly what equipment we bring off the truck when we first run out to your door versus...
It does change that a lot.
Yeah.
I can see that. So, I was going to ask the question about what's the most challenging aspect, but wow, I would think that would be...
That's, I guess, one of them. However, I would like to tell you that also being in a rural county...
Good. Go ahead. And then that's going to bring me to my next question. Go ahead.
I think another one of the large challenges is, let's say we have a call way up on the north west side of the county. Our nearest resources to go assist them if the fire department is not available will be either the medic units, another ambulance coming out of Belleville, or the supervisor, who is most often found down in Sealy, having to run emergency traffic that far and that long. The emergency may be over one way or the other. Yeah. So think about the fact that the crews have to find a safe place to pull up and a place to get the gear out. And I may get the numbers a little skewed here, but that stretcher weighs a lot. That's a big number. And I think they said like 175 pounds on that stretcher.
Without a pack.
The bags can weigh anywhere between, probably both of them, 75 to 125, depending on which bags go on there, if not more. And then you got to think about any additional equipment based off of information we get from that 911 caller that may behoove us and keep us from having to run back to the truck and waste more time. We can bring it all in one swoop. And then trying to find a way to the patient with all of that gear, get the patient up and onto the stretcher safely, and then extricate them out to the unit without any, and that's if you had a clear pathway with no stairs, no tie. I mean, some of these houses are so old that the hallways may be a foot and a half wide, So you think about it.
Turns and you can't even, stretcher can't even go in the house, and now we got to either carry the patient or find another way to get out of the house.
Now they put the patient on the stretcher, and they have to carry all that was once riding in on that stretcher on their backs while carrying all this heavy equipment out with the patient on it. And I think sometimes that's a hard thing to do with two people, and try to get it done in a timely manner and get them to definitive care, i.e. the hospitals, in a timely manner to get the emergency resolved.
I was saying, and I would think too, like I said, the people probably don't help, because I know I'd be the kind, I'd be running around I wouldn't be good. It's better for me to stay out of the way. But my question was going to be, I know that I'm not the only one. Over where our studio is between Belleville and Sealy. And a lot of times you see an EMS truck, sometimes the sheriff's department too, just sitting. And are they truly just sitting there to take a break, or why are they there?
I'll answer that. So as we get calls in the county, the Sealy area is our busiest. And it does about 50% of the whole county's volume just in the Sealy area. How's that? To come up almost up to the studio here, down halfway to Wallace, and in the city limits, as well as the area close to it. So when that ambulance goes and to say they're taking a patient to Katy, the Wallace truck ambulance comes up to Sealy to protect. Unfortunately, the population of Sealy of Wallace is smaller than Sealy's population.
Right.
So we're always moving trucks to the area of the highest call percentages. Okay. And so Wallace's truck will move to Sealy to the station and stay there. And then all of a sudden we get another call, and Belleville goes out. The industry truck comes all the way from industry and sits in Belleville, because that's the two biggest hubs of busyness. How's that? That's the easiest way to say it. When we have a truck sitting on the side of the road, we call it central. That's the center point of the county on the highways.
Okay.
And that is the last ambulance that we have in service at that time in the county, and it is going in any direction from that spot.
Okay. And that's what I said. I know.
It's just because all the trucks went out on a call, and usually it happens in a short. It's really strange. This county is in 30 minutes we can run out almost be out of ambulances in 30 minutes. And then for the next 4 hours, nobody goes anywhere. And then all of a sudden it happens again, or 3 or 4 times. So
wow. I think I want to also add to that. Sometimes you'll see either a fire truck, an ambulance, or even police, maybe all of them staging at one time on the side of the road because we have gotten a call that has not been rendered safe. I know the caller might think it's safe, but tend to emotions, weapons, intoxication, things like that, tend to make a situation even more potentially dangerous. So we instruct our fire, especially our EMS, to stage until the law enforcement can make location and render it safe for our EMS providers to come in to do their thing without walking into harm's way.
Yeah, you forget about that too, because again, I'm thinking of, my elderly parents. I don't think about, the drunk boyfriend or the.
Oh, and we get called to assaults. We get, things like that, domestic disputes and stuff like that. And we're coming to help take care of the medical side of things. And depending on how that information comes into dispatch, if they don't say that there was an assault in progress or something like that, and they're just like, yeah, I got cut, or or this or that or whatever, or
well, that wasn't too long ago. Y'all have to wear body armor now, don't you?
Body armor on our trucks, yes.
So that was when did that start? Like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, we put it on about 2-3 years ago.
I was blown away when they approved that in court, in Commissioner's Court. I was like, are you serious?
Yes.
Our EMS have to wear body armor now. I was just.
And we don't wear it all the time. We wear it on high-risk calls. Anytime that there's a law enforcement event that they need EMS on standby, we're there as in the background just to make sure that things are safe. And so that if we need to go in somewhere where we're not going into the hot zone where the law enforcement has guns drawn, but we may be in that warm zone where, hey, they can get us out to here. We can pick them up from here and get us out where it's safe and get to the ambulance and take care of things. And also, we want to give our people the protection they can get.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, actually, it was just this last week, I think, or in the last week or two, a paramedic in one of the northern states was stabbed by a patient in the back of the ambulance and died.
I've been taken hostage twice, so yes.
Yeah. I've had multiple guns pointed at me in people's residence. So, and people don't think of that.
Unbelievable.
Yes, yeah. And these are the people calling for you for help in some cases. Or their families in the other room and they don't want you there. And they don't think it's an important issue or whatever else.
Or maybe they're just emotionally distraught and people don't, some people don't handle the emotions very well, and it comes out as anger, not necessarily because they don't like you, they just don't understand the situation, Right. But they don't realize it.
And unfortunately, mental health is another issue too.
There's also,
we just have a lot of, nationwide, there's a lot of people with mental health issues that can't, either not have, may not have proper access to treatment for things, or have not been compliant for the treatment, whatever it may be, and have psychiatric episodes, that unfortunately, it takes a lot of teamwork from us, law enforcement, fire, to make the situation as safe as possible for everybody, including the patient, because we don't want anything to happen to them either.
No.
And we want to take care of them. Like we're here to help. And
that's the whole reason I got into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what's kind of bad is you're over there trying to render aid and they're, wow. Okay. Well, that again leads me to more questions. The one about, okay. So obviously since we have the body armor or whatever else, like training, how much training do you guys go through? And I guess, adding in the body armor, how has it changed? I mean, at first was it just like, okay, go in and Band-Aid people up. And now it's like, wait until you get your body armor on. I mean,
well, it all depends. So the body armor also came with the rash of the nationwide instance of school shootings and stuff that happened.
All right.
And so we implemented body armor with some of that too. And with that, work with law enforcement. So if a situation like that, an active shooter event happens somewhere, whether it's a school, a store, whatever, our purpose is hopefully come in with law enforcement escort as they're going to deal with whoever the shooter is.
Right.
We're coming in behind with law enforcement and we're trying to pick up, and triage and emergency treat people and get them out of there. So we're not waiting and waiting and waiting. Because unfortunately we've seen in the past, where if nobody was in there to treat anybody, unfortunately some of the children's like Uvalde, stuff like that, unfortunately probably died just on the pure delay of
unnecessary.
Not having people in there. And so we were trying to provide our people the opportunity and the ability to have some type of protection in there to get in and out real fast. And then we did a whole training program of emergency casualty care, how to treat MCI, mass casualty event. That's all major trauma like that. How to get him out of the hot zone or the warm zone, get him out, and how to do it efficiently. No, you don't bring your cardiac monitors. You don't bring this. You bring the things that are going to save their life right now and get them to the point where they're safe enough to move. That's all you're doing.
As far as the other training, there's so many caveats to the training, whether it's medical, trauma, behavioral, special situations, standbys, and there's training for all of that. And then there's subcategories in each of those. So I'm sure I don't want any of our employees watching this, but in my opinion, I don't think you can ever train enough.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. So this is that whole thing. It's ongoing. Every new thing that comes out, and you guys are on top of.
Every 48 hours, they're expected to do some type of training. So, and we will bring, the Wallace truck into Sealy or the Belleville or the industry truck into Belleville, and those two trucks together will do some training, either with the supervisor or with their admin staff on something. Every 48 hours.
So we know that.
I had a question. Like he's saying, the truck. How many trucks are there? I guess what's the equipment rundown for y'all?
Okay, all right. So we have 4 staffed ambulances in the county. So we'll start at Wallace, one there at the new station in Wallace, one in Sealy, one in Belleville, and one out in Industry. And then we have 3 reserve trucks. They're fully stocked, ready to go. If we needed to send out the emergency signal, people off duty could come in and grab a truck. And
so 7.
So we have a total of
Austin County has 7 trucks.
7 ambulances. 3 of them are staffed. And then a supervisor who is, drives around in a Tahoe, and they have almost all the equipment that the ambulance has, just not the ability to transport somebody.
Okay.
And they will make calls as well. They're the backup for the crew, because sometimes you just need a third set of hands, or sometimes you've got a critical patient that you need every hand you can get, and that's the person that's coming to you without taking 2 ambulances, sending them to the spot.
Is there a ratio? Is that a good ratio for a county our size to have 7, or should be 12, or is 3 good enough? Or
I'm sure more is always better.
We're with the expansion of I-10 and all the new stuff that's moving in, it is not too far from the realm of obvious to me that we're going to need to start slowly putting on additional resources. And I think Chief is running with that plan. He's watching that very closely as we're pulling in the data, because we do want to be able to prove it with data-driven concepts, and not just a guess.
And I think, Commissioner's Court, Judge Lapham stuff, made some great decisions back when we elected to use the COVID funds to help build new EMS stations. The stations that we were in, out in Industry, we were living in the volunteer fire station. And not the best space for 2 people to live in for 48 hours straight. You're kind of on top of each other the whole time. You can't get away. There's no privacy anywhere, In Belleville, we're still in that station now, but they'll be hopefully in the next few months be moving into the new station, and it's basically across the road from the station. You remember here in Sealy was the old White House that they were in.
Is that the haunted one?
Yeah.
Okay.
My quote was, it was temporary 20 years ago. I don't know how long, but it was long overdue to getting out of it.
It had a hole in the roof or the floor?
It had a hole in the floor that you could, and soft spots in other places. It was just old. And, and unfortunately didn't get the love that it probably needed over the years. Not by anybody's fault. It's just as things get older, starting to put a lot of money into something like, well, why are we investing money in this? We can do something else.
You told me that was a live petting zoo.
And then in Wallace, we lived in one of the old school buildings from by the old baseball diamonds, and so it wasn't ideal living conditions in quarters for people. We had mold in some of the stations. We had all these little things that came about, and when we decided to build the new stations, we decided let's build for the future, because we saw the I-10 was already under construction at the time when we started the process. We knew that the big city was coming this way.
I had another one. I know that most people don't realize how much is a EMS truck, single truck.
A single truck by itself to purchase an ambulance, just bare empty, more than $350,000. And it takes
Wait, say that again. How much?
$350,000 to buy an empty truck. So
And then to stock it costs?
well, the new cardiac monitors we put on are $50,000 a piece. Ventilators about $10,000-$12,000 a piece. The stretchers $20,000-$30,000 a piece. The loading device to put the stretcher on to actually so we don't have to pick it up anymore is another $20,000. We have medications on the ambulance that expire just like a carton of milk.
Okay, hang on. Okay, so
I do have the precise number if you're looking for it. It's called a lot.
So you're telling me that with those 7 vehicles, just those 7, we're looking at $2,450,000?
And that's not even counting the medicines
stocked.
in it. Yes, yeah.
Or the staff to run it.
And did you know that in a 1 year we'll put enough miles on the whole fleet we put over 225,000 miles on a fleet of ambulances a year.
$2.5 million
And
$500,000.
and
for
if we
empty
buy-
vehicles.
And if I buy an
You
ambulance
don't even have
today,
a driver.
yeah. And if I buy an ambulance today, it'll be 18 months before it shows up.
Because
It takes
It's
that long.
much longer. There's just that many people waiting on ambulances.
Okay,
So-
that's what I was going to ask you. I understand that these ambulances are mobile ICUs.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and so what does that mean? I mean, I know what an ICU is, but how does that translate?
So
into
we're
back to the
bringing,
truck?
it used to be like an ALS and stuff like that would be like, hey, we'll bring in the ER to you. The ICU is we're bringing you the ICU room on wheels where we're able to do critical care in the times that is needed and be able to, if there's a will or way to change your world around and bring you back to the land of living here, that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's no longer just a Band-Aid station or, hey, here's an oxygen mobile bar, you know. It
Not
is
just a ride to the hospital.
Yes.
A place
It's
where you
definitely
actually work and save someone's life.
a mobile ICU room coming to you with all the ICU equipment.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's good to know because, well, like you said with I-10 and stuff. I mean, you have, gosh, going down 36 here. I mean, they all have 18-wheelers and all kind of stuff. And not too terribly long ago, they had a very bad wreck down there. And I mean, I saw police and EMS and all kind of stuff. I mean, it was.
Walter, let me ask you a question, and I'm not trying to take anything away, but the truck's $350,000, and then you stock it, and you have the training and everything. And it sounds awful, but is there? I'm thinking of the cost savings, but y'all are doing all that, and you're responding to basically picking someone up off the floor. Do you know what I'm saying? Is there overkill in that, or?
Well, so
I mean, I know you don't know what all you're going to run
yes.
into, but
So the majority of our calls, yes, are falls, with injuries. But some of those falls, they hit their head on the way down, and now they're
on blood thinners.
And they're on blood thinners with the new blood thinners on and stuff like that. There's not really any treatment on the pre-hospital side of things that we can do other than monitor them. But other things, maybe they need pain medication because they broke their hip and are excruciating pain.
But I also want to jump back to that. Hey, they've got the internal bleeding. There's not much we can do at pre-hospital, but we are monitoring because those things can rapidly develop and that could affect the airway. It could affect your heart. It could affect a lot of different things that we need to be on guard to be able to jump in at that moment to help alleviate, to get you to the hospital in the safest manner possible so they can do their definitive care to get you back to a healthy lifestyle.
And
So slip and fall is not
that's
just
the most common call, but it's not the only.
right, but that's what I'm saying. This is not little kids slip and fall. This is adults, vulnerable individuals.
Falling with
Yes.
injuries.
Okay.
Absolutely.
When you're, I hate to say it, when you're over 70 and you fall on the ground, there's a good chance that you're going to break something.
Yes. Well, we know that with our NAD.
Yeah. But that's not the only thing. We also have the ability with our equipment that we can detect if somebody's having a heart attack. And before we can get to the hospital, the cardiologist on call has already seen our EKG. We can transmit all that to them and they can see that. And we essentially bypass the emergency room, go right up to the heart catheterization, and they go right into the operating room to have the problem fixed.
Wow. I was gonna say, what about the stroke? Because like my father-in-law had a stroke and they caught it, with the wherever the medicine is.
Yes.
And so y'all can do that kind of stuff too.
We can't give them medicine.
Right, but you
we
could
do a CAT scan first, ideally, but we have protocols in place on in certain time frames. These are the destinations that you go to, because it's all time ridden, just like having a heart attack. The more time you have, the longer you have chest pain, the worse damage is going to happen to your heart. Same thing our stroke is just a brain attack. The longer that you're having a blockage or bleeding in your brain, the more damage it's going to cause over the long term. But we can recognize certain things, and within certain time frames, either decide that, yes, we can go locally here and get a CAT scan, and then get them, okay, yes, they can start the clot busting medicines, here, and we can take them from there either and get them to a bigger hospital, or, hey, time is getting pretty tight and there's not that time to move people between, point A and point B, that we bypass everybody and go to that hospital that can take care of everything.
I think it comes down to the early recognition of the signs and symptoms by the person who's about to call 911. And then it relies on back to that training we talked about and repetitively training it to be able to do what we need to do to assess for what type of stroke it may or may not land on, the severity of it and the onset of that stroke. And then we have different hospitals, like he mentioned earlier, that are more qualified to handle certain types of patients. So I don't want to take just anybody to XYZ hospital. They need to go to a protocol hospital that is actually been certified in that particular field, whether it be, hey, we need to do head surgery to fix this bleeding clot in the head, or, hey, we need to take you to a primary stroke center where they can give you medication to bust up a clot. There's several different types of therapeutic approaches to these, depending on what type of stroke that we're able to assess for and score. But again, it comes back down to that training, and just like anything else, a language or anything like that, if you don't utilize that training often, you tend to get slower in your methods. You lose the technique, which is why it requires such training repetitively. It can't just be a one and done. You've got to keep circling back, and it may become monotonous. But where I retired from, I think there was so much training that I thought sometimes I wanted to just jump out the first story window. I'm scared of heights. But it was so needed, because then it become muscle memory in the time that it's actually needed to be deployed. And that's what we want to keep pushing here. And we want to bring that up and become the rural EMS service to be in Texas, be that number one rural EMS service. That's where our goal and hopes are. And just because we're rural and removed from the metropolitan area doesn't mean that we're any less educated, Right.
I was going to say, that was my next question. So the thing is, there's nothing, our EMSs or EMS people and vehicles are just as good as the big boys in Houston, right? I mean, don't they have to meet a certain standard?
There's a state minimum standard based on the level of certification of the ambulance. So you can have a what we call a BLS, or basic life support ambulance, which is just 2 EMTs. You can have a ALS level ambulance, which can be an EMT and an advanced EMT, which is a little bit more training. Or you can have a MICU, or medical intensive care unit level ambulance, which has a paramedic on board with a bare minimum an EMT. So,
and I think the other answer to your question is what I can liken that to saying that all guns are created equal, and that is certainly not the case. I think I heard that earlier. We all start off passing the same routine test from the National Registry. But like, again, if you don't practice and you don't do day-to-day training, you tend to lose some of your skills, if not quite a bit of them. And that really depends on how much time, energy, knowledge, resources, money you have to put into that training to keep your skills sharp on a day-to-day basis versus we're going to train once or twice a year, because we don't have the money, or we don't have the facility or the tools, or the interest to do it, and that becomes a difference. So in the bigger cities, you may have the taxpayer dollar where they have a little bit more money coming in to fund their EMS services. And out here, you don't really have that. So we have to rely on the budget year and stuff like that. And this is not a plug, and if y'all knew me, y'all know it's not true, but I have to tell you, I truly applaud our judge, and I truly applaud our county commissioners. Thank you. I blanked there for a second.
We'll show the judge and the county commissioners. They happen to be on here.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, they're here? Oh, they're on the picture. I thought they were on there. I'm like, oh my gosh.
They're not on our call.
Okay. I don't think in my EMS career, me speaking for myself, have I ever seen such a dedicated group of leaders come together to put such a robust or allow the pathway for a robust EMS system to start developing, to be able to provide such a grandeur of at least a thought of care in a rural area as I have seen our judge and our commissioners. And I'm just, sometimes I walk out of there dumbfounded that, oh my God, they said yes, and they all said yes together, almost in unison, like they practiced it. But they're just, I think they get it.
Yeah, they understand.
And I'm like,
and the necessities of and the future, what's going to,
yes.
And it's a whole lot easier now, to be honest with you, to build this, what we want on the training level and everything else now, while we're still Austin County EMS with 4 staffed ambulances and a supervisor. And 15 years from now, when we're hypothetically 15 ambulances in service, we don't know, depending on what growth is like, who knows, right? It's a whole lot easier to maintain that level than it is to try and build it when you're that big.
Exactly correct.
So,
okay, I have a dumb question.
No such thing.
What is the difference between an EMT and the EMS?
well, so EMS is the emergency medical services as a whole.
Okay.
And then an EMT is an emergency medical technician.
Okay.
And so it's a certification level by the state, and it's in, basically a nationally nationally certified emergency medical technician that met the requirements for that level of training. The training is about, I would say, just to keep it simple, a semester community college type thing to become an EMT. Okay. In the state of Texas, to be a professional firefighter, so a paid firefighter, you have to be an EMT as well. That's the bare minimum standard for that.
Okay.
And so if you add another, another semester of school to the program, you can keep going back to go to school and do the advanced EMT program, which teaches you a few more skills, IVs, intubation, a few more medications type thing. And then if you go to school for another full year after that, you can become paramedic, which gives you all the tools in our toolbox type thing, all the medications, all the equipment, all the skills, and stuff like that.
Okay, so paramedic is higher than an EMT.
Yes.
Okay. Because a lot of times people use them interchangeably, which
Yes. It is very confusing for the public in most cases.
I think they even work in ambulance driver every now and then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Now, are your ambulance drivers, are they certified as well? Or
They
just-
certainly are. Sometimes I drive it.
So,
Okay.
so there's actually no such thing as an ambulance driver in the state of Texas.
Oh, there's none?
No.
You have to be a bare minimum EMT to be. You have to have, so by state law, you have to have at least, you have to have 2 certified people on the ambulance.
Oh, okay. Well,
So when it's time to drive, once they in the back, here I goes up front.
I did not know that.
So there's a minimum staffing requirements, and so since we staff our ambulances at the MICU level, we have to have a bare minimum of an EMT and a paramedic on that truck, regardless. We can have 2 paramedics, but you can't have anything less than an EMT and a paramedic on that.
Okay. Well, we learned. I'm telling you,
So-
just learning all kind of stuff. Okay, we're getting close to the end here.
I had one
go ahead.
more.
Go ahead.
The other thing I know when you said that about the training and everything, I know that was one of the biggest complaints, not just, I think y'all, but the sheriff and everything. And the problem is people coming here, training up, we spend the money, and then they bolt to Houston, to wherever, and we're gutted.
Yes. And it happens in cycles every once in a while. I think, so this last year, Commissioner Court approved some pay raises that made us a little bit more comparable to the city. I'll take a step back. Back in the day, you grew up and you lived in the town that
Right.
you grew up in a lot of cases, and you ended up working there.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays, it is
Well,
nothing for
transient.
somebody to drive 45 minutes to go to work. Well, 45 minutes from Austin County, depending on what direction you're going in, puts you in College Station, in that area, or in Conroe, or in downtown Houston, and there's a lot of different options. And pay
drive
scales
fast.
vary from region to region. And the more rural you become, it typically has lower pays just because they're not funded as well as they are in other places. So that was one thing that we did, was we got at least some comparable pay scales to be competitive. And then we also broke it up a little bit more by saying, okay, when you have this much experience as an EMT or a paramedic, you have, we had like basically a pay scale of less than 3 years and greater than 3 years. We broke that up even more so that a 10-year paramedic is paid more than that, that someone who has 3 months or 3 years and 3 months, right? Because they have 10 years worth of knowledge.
Yeah.
7 years worth of knowledge and experience there. They're a very valuable asset to an agency. And those are some of the people that we were losing over time. After they got some good experience and time, they were, picked as wonderful options to larger agencies, because it's like, we don't have to invest as much time and energy to train these people. And so we got that done. And then combination of, hey, look, we got our new stations. We got we have great equipment, good protocols to operate under, a wonderful medical director, good education coming. That and our workload here in Austin County isn't like some of our neighboring agencies. Some of our colleagues, we had a couple employees that started with us and left shortly after,
and then came back.
They came back.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh my God, like I'm working a 24-hour shift or a 48-hour shift, and I was on calls for 18 of that 24 hours nonstop.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to live that life like that, to be on the go and not have any time to decompress. And then they get home and they're exhausted.
What's the burnout rate? I mean, because the thing is,
nationwide in EMS, I would say expect a 25+% turnover rate in employees a year.
Just because they just get tired of it.
I think it's a combination of the high call volume and low downtime versus also the rise in being assaulted while you're on there, low pay,
verbally,
no education, being offered to continue that knowledge base and keep learning and grow or stay sharp on your skills. And then some of it is also the service and the leadership, and I get that, So I think it's a mixture of a pie, kind of going on. So,
and I think that some of it is the other side of this too is sometimes you have to make that judgment call, and maybe we all have calls in our minds from our days, right? We all learn, we make mistakes as we go along. There's not a EMT or paramedic or physician in this world that hasn't made a mistake somewhere in their practice. It's not intentionally, but those ones weigh on you. We've all done it. I've made mistakes just on the administrative side, and it weighs on me, like, man, I said this, or I did that, or whatever. And it doesn't matter if you're in sales or if you're taking care of somebody, those things affect you internally, because that's not the person you'll want to be.
Right.
And so after a while, it weighs on you, and you don't feel like you're doing anything right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Even though you're doing a great job, and 99.9% of the time you're rocking it, but it's that 1%, they haunt you sometimes.
Well, and I was going to say, sometimes the public, can be less than understanding. They look and they say, oh, you're getting a brand new firehouse, and that's taking up my taxes and stuff. And they don't realize that, once again, it's an incentive for good people to come and stay. It's also a place that you're going to be living pretty consistently. Every few days you're going to be living there.
A little over a third of a year.
Yeah. And so
you live there for 48 hours straight.
Right. And that's the thing, is so they don't understand it. So that too can weigh on you. The fact that instead of, hey, you're doing a great job, we really, really appreciate you, it's, why are you asking for another truck? Why are you asking for another ambulance? Right. Didn't you just get, I don't know, a defibrillator or whatever, and they're, people don't realize. And it's and that's part of the reason that we're here, because we want people to understand that, you guys aren't sitting back there eating bonbons and, buying trucks, for $250,000. You are actually serving Austin County. I mean, your desire is to save people. And that's what we want people to know. Yeah. But, go ahead.
Oh no, just exactly. Like it weighs harder, and, a lot of different things. There's a whole many different factors of seeing things that nobody ever wants to see in their life.
No. Right.
That we see in our careers. Could probably, if somebody can imagine it, we'd probably have seen it between the two of us. I think that we put our brains together, we probably have seen it some way and somehow.
That's correct.
And some of those, I hate to say it, they don't go away. Right. You push them away and you don't think about them, and all of a sudden something's out of your mind. Yeah. But it's that slow, consistent, burn over time, and it gets hard to clear out. And I did 20 years on an air medical helicopter. I've seen my share of stuff, and I was ready. I felt like I was getting burnt out, and I loved the job. I loved taking care of people, but I was at that point where I needed a new something. I thought about getting out of I was thinking about getting out of the industry altogether and find something else, but I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. like, well, we'll try this, see what happens. I ran another EMS agency. I'm like, okay, well, I've got some experience, so I'm able to take a chance on me.
but we're glad to have you here.
So,
I mean, I feel like we're very, very lucky. And I was going to say, let's kind of end on a better note. What are think about the best thing about the job? What is the best thing that's happened? Maybe a great story, something that,
I think
chases away some of those, negative things.
I think for me is when I can teach somebody else something that they've been desiring to learn, and they actually get it and they know it and they just ready to race out the door and teach others. There's a light bulb that comes on, and for me, that's when I internally smile.
For me, I think we always love seeing patients come back and just stop by and say
nice.
Hey, these are the, crew so-and-so and crew so-and-so saved my life. And when we remember some of these calls, and sometimes they just stop by a week after they get out of the hospital. Sometimes it's a year later, because that's how long it took them to get out of the hospital.
All right.
And it's just amazing to see them knowing that it wasn't just their life that we affected, it's their family, their friends, and everything else who made a difference. And then the other big thing I think as an administrator is seeing our people succeed and come to work and be excited to come to work and have fun.
Absolutely.
Yet be professional and love what they do, because it comes from all of us on the admin team by trying to create the environment that they enjoy the job and they want to do better and they want to serve the public as best they can.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, last question I'm going to ask you before we're going to go through you're the webmistress of the.
Yeah, I just taught myself in the last 2 weeks. It's not burnt.
We're going to show this. Okay. Like the police and the fire department, they have a rivalry.
Oh,
do you guys have a rivalry with anybody?
Probably with all of them, like to all of us. Yeah. So,
right.
so
I didn't know if it was one of those things of, because I know that my two brother-in-laws are firemen and police, and they are always
having fun.
Always having fun, tearing each other up.
We probably lean a little bit more towards the fire department side of things on the joke side of things. So,
okay, but this is your
our
website.
Yeah.
And go ahead, tell me about it. I'm gonna click. You tell me what to do.
Oh, I have to tell you, and actually the website was up prior to my getting my hands on it, but the person that did run it took a job elsewhere, and it slowly became out of date. And we felt like we needed to figure this out, so I just assigned myself the job one day. Through the help of the office girls, I have Candy Haveman and Tammy Wendell. They were able to help me get my feet into this. So we've updated the uppage. We updated the pictures. So we now actually have some of the pictures of the current crew members. Some of them, just as quick as we say that, are no longer part of the organization for one reason or another. But the ones you see on the screen now definitely are. The guy on the right here is our Chris Villarreal. He is my go-to guy. If I ever think anybody's salivating to do an extrication, he's the one, okay? I'm afraid every time he jumps out of the truck, he forgets what the EMT bag looks like. He grabs the Halligan bar and runs, okay? But that's Candy Haveman in the middle picture there. She's out doing a standby, or not standby, a public relations right now, and teaching some of the elderly group there, some of the benefits that EMS has.
Okay.
And doing courtesy blood pressure checks and stuff like that. That far left, you'll see our brand new vent on top of our expensive stretcher there. Which is part of the MICU equipment, so we can actually perform an airway and to be able to consistently watch and give you the appropriate amount of air and timely manners on that. So,
okay, so here's if you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to tell you, we are really full on our schedule right now. We're not hurting for personnel, which is not something that anybody mostly can say. But I can tell you that don't wait for a job hiring process to happen. Okay. I encourage anybody who's interested from EMT Basic on up, if you think that this is a place you want to call a home or a career here, fill out that online application. You can print it off and then fill it out, either scan it and mail it to the email that's there or bring it in. Our girls in the office really love it when somebody hand delivers. We're kind of old school that way. We get to see you, meet you kind of thing. And that really kind of makes them talk about you even more. Hint, hint. But I turn that in, and when there is an opening, which is now far few in between, but when it happens, we call whoever's on file. We don't. Right. I'll put an announcement on out there on Facebook or in some sort of other
recruiting
website for short. Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
But I have to tell you, we're going to pull from that file. I do ask you that every 6 months. If we haven't heard from us, just check by, update it, make sure that nothing's changed, or if it has, please submit another one. There's no magical way of getting ahead of that line. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I say a line, I do mean line, because our last one, I kid you not, we had close to, if not over 50 applicants.
Oh, wow.
So that was amazingly
That's good, though.
strong. And I'm breathless on that one. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. Make it big. Let's see.
I would think that's also a testament of what y'all are doing.
Right.
That people want to come.
Yes.
The news is starting to get out there, and I think we've done a great job with some of our, I love tech to a point, but I'm not a social media guy type thing.
That's why I help y'all.
But so one of our guys we have a little team of guys and work on, and they've made those videos that you guys have shared.
Right.
And you saw the pictures of the pumpkins at Halloween on their heads, and they're coming up with these fun ideas, and I am like, have fun at work, because you know what? That gets us out there. And believe it or not, I can't remember how many thousands and thousands and thousands of views that we've got on them, and we're getting comments from people that work in the city of Austin EMS going, "What are you guys doing over there? That's pretty cool." And from all over the nation, actually. So we've actually had applicants from Arizona and stuff like that for things.
We've even had them come from outside the country too, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if we go up a little bit, I just want to give recognition. Of course, we talked about the Judge Lapham, the
legend,
county commissioners. But Dr. Wee, as our medical director, he's a board certified emergency physician. He's was recently retired from, he was the medical director for Fort Bend County EMS. They wanted a full-time medical director that was part of their staff. And he just, with his other practice and stuff like that, he just didn't have the time to do that. But he's our medical director, so all of our clinical decisions and stuff like that, we build these algorithms with him on how to care for people the best that we can in the pre-hospital. So he's a wonderful guy, great mentor, great teacher for our crews. He actually comes monthly, and we have open meetings with all our staff to learn about cases that went really well, maybe not so well, and everything in between. New trends. So he's wonderful. There's our ugly pictures. Not say any more about us.
Yes.
All right.
Captain Justin Ward, here's our new clinical manager. He just started with us at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
He has jumped into the fire with both feet, and he is,
he's a whirlwind. I will tell you that right now.
We're very lucky to have him.
That's good.
These are our supervisors that are out. They're the ones that ride around the Tahoe all day long. They're the backup to everybody. So they've all had, I would say 10 plus years in EMS.
Oh, easily.
And as paramedics, and come from very busy 911 services as well, from outside or homegrown, one or the other.
Okay.
So lots of experience. Tammy, Wendell, Candy Heaven, they're the admin staff in the office. If you call the main office, they're the ones that answer phones. They do a phenomenal job dealing with the everyday operations of things. They're both certified as EMTs, and it's a requirement in our department. Even if you work the phone, you have to be an EMT certified.
That's awesome, though.
Brett Coughlin, he's our logistics manager. He's captain. He's a paramedic. And he takes care of everything from our fleet maintenance to medical equipment maintenance, medical supplies, and all other duties that's assigned. So, and that's a full-time job.
Honestly, so you guys, you don't skimp on the certifications and qualifications in your office.
No, because my expectation is if you're driving around in one of our vehicles and you're the closest person to a call, you're going to that call.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
From Chief Ritchey and myself to Tammy, Candy in the office. If we run out of ambulances and everybody's in the office, we will staff another truck. We just drive up to the Belleville station and put another truck in service.
Just close the office and everybody goes.
Yes, everybody goes.
I think that's the priority, is the patients all day long.
And they'll come in from home on weekends or sometimes if it's that bad.
I don't think I go home sometimes.
I was gonna say, and here's one of the things that I think is very, very important, is the community education, because like we talked about here, sometimes people don't know, they think, well, this or that, and they don't know. And so the thing is you guys are out there, you're showing them stuff, and you're available, correct? I mean, if they call,
you
they may not be able to
do
talk to you right then, but they could get a question answered.
That's it. Just call and ask, and we'll find an answer, or we'll tell you if we're not doing it right now, because when COVID came through, it kind of wiped out a lot of the things out. And then she came in to take over the Austin County EMS. And then I came in, and we're trying to clean house inside as far as getting our clinical status up, our thought process, our resources, our training, our stations. We got a lot in the water right now. Right. I think our crews, like Chief Lexus says, they're drinking from a 5-inch charged water line right now, okay? So once that starts to slow down, which will probably be toward the end of this year, whatever we're not doing, we are doing CPR classes if they'll call and ask. BLS classes to some degree, and we're getting out into the schools when they call and ask, making sure we get the training, stop the bleed, things like that. But if there's anything else, somebody asked about EMT basic and stuff like that, that is not out of the realm of possibilities of bringing it back. We just need to kind of clean some of the plate that we have going on right now off and set up a step process that's right, and make sure it's doable. And then we have the resources to be able to pull that off.
Over the last few years, we've, it's been focusing on getting our equipment, getting our stations built, and all that stuff. And this year, when we added Captain Ward, our focus is on our internal education. Let's make our people the best EMTs and paramedics available.
Yeah, and that's
what we've been working on.
I say that's what's important.
And making ourselves better. So I kind of always, I joke about some of the military sayings sometimes and things like that. They're not training to get it right. We're training so we, can't get it wrong.
Right.
That's true. That's what it is. Every day, the same thing. Hey, look, if now all I have to worry about is I have to move this patient from between their bed and the nightstand on the wall in a tight bedroom. Now that's the only thing I have to worry about, because everything else is going to be second nature. Mm-hmm. So I can just deal with that one issue, that one little road speed bump, right? And then we're on track again. If we don't train, then everything's a speed bump and you're just scrambling.
That's well put. So, yes, definitely.
I say you guys are awesome, and I hope, please, that y'all will come back and visit with us.
All you gotta do is call and ask.
All right, awesome. That's the thing, is we always love to have our people come back, especially if you have something cool going on.
Okay.
You call us and just say, hey, we want to come and tell you all about it.
You got it. We want y'all to know what's going on. I don't think there's a questions that's off limits.
Okay. And that's good. That I like transparency personally. I like to be able to call you and go, hey, I have a question. And it makes you feel better. It kind of restores your faith in, the people that are out there.
Absolutely.
So, but we appreciate you. You have any parting words for our audience? Be nice to be a nice to your
Be safe out there.
If you have any old gym equipment, not old, but like, good used and stuff like that, we got a station about to open up. We're accepting any old gym equipment. And also, I think that's where I get my request in, right? Oh, okay. Just checking. Okay. No, I think that's what I wanted to do.
I like chocolate chip cookies. Is that what you're?
I know that we're working for you. Promise you, we are. So
we won't turn away pies in case.
Oh no, I have a bad story about that. No.
No. Okay.
No. Just come by and tell me thank you, or let me know how you're doing.
We really do love the fact that we could be somewhere and somebody just comes up and says,
absolutely,
hey, thank you for everything you guys do. Whether they're from out of town or whatever, or in town, or, hey, you guys took care of my mom. You guys were so amazing. I got a phone call just yesterday from an EMS director from another county that their county commissioner called them and said that their family member we took to the hospital here in our county.
Oh, wow.
And things were,
they're just, good.
Yeah.
Got that. Just kudos.
We're thrilled to how well we took care of the people. And
awesome.
Those are the ones I like to hear. To be honest with you, I hear a lot more of that than I hear of any complaints. And that's because I think we got some great people that really do care about their people, the people they take care of, and the community and their profession. So
I was saying that's a testament to y'all. So we appreciate you. All right, Austin County, that is it for now. We will have them come back definitely. Before we leave, I want to remind everybody to like and share our videos, and please subscribe to our Hello Austin County YouTube channel. Guys, thank you again. And until next time, Austin County, keep smiling.